Today in MATLAB Basics, we're going to generate a data set and then interpolate a curve to that data set. You can see here I've done that with pieces of a sine wave, and we're going to be using a spline, but you can also do something like use a linear fitting, which of course doesn't look that good for this data set, or you can do something like use the nearest neighbor, which is more like a sample and hold. Let's go back to the spline and see how we did that in MATLAB. Looking at the code, the first thing I do is I'm going to generate x, which is just going to be a linearly spaced vector that's going from 0 to 6 pi, with that n equals 100 steps. And then I'm going to make a sine wave of this. The next thing I want to do is I want to keep a random set of points from this original sine wave. So I'm going to make a random permutation of the indices from 1 to n. So if we were to do a rand perm of 4, you can see that you would generate 3, 1, 4, 2. Try it again, and you might get 3, 4, 1, 2, and so on. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to keep a certain percentage of these data points. And right now that's at 20%. So that I'm just going to take the number n and take 20% of that number, round it to the nearest value, and that's going to tell me how many indices to keep from that random permutation. I use that in the indexing to decide what is going to be x kept and y kept. That is the x and y values I'm actually going to keep from this sine wave. So I'm just basically sampling 20% of the sine wave. Finally, this is where the magic comes in with interp1. I'm going to feed it x kep and y kep. That is my sparsely defined sine wave. And then I want to sample it to the original x spacing, and then I choose which kind of fitting I want to do, or interpolation I want to do. In this case, spline. Then finally, I'm going to use the plot command with two different line series. First, I'm going to plot x versus y interp with a black line, and then I'm going to plot the original x kep and y kep with red circles. And we can see that down at the bottom. If I just keep running this, you can see how it works for different data sets. Maybe this is hard to do because we're not actually keeping that many data points. If I were to keep it more like 80%, you can see it's going to nail it very nicely. Thank you.